Hello everyone, Para here from the Paradox Brothers YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do a very quick video of going over the GOAT Format World Championship 2023 that just went on this last weekend, and we'll just talk about a few things here. So I'm not going to go into too many deck profiles in great detail or anything like that. You can certainly look at the decks for yourself on GoFormat.com. But for the most part, 20 something of the 32. Actually, I mean, it's really just the majority of the decks in the top 32 were more or less like 8 cards away from being the same. Not necessarily saying, anything negative about any players. It's just a streamlined deck at this point. Anyone who follows GOAT format content probably knows that Chaos Turbo is the deck to beat. But the problem is, I think, in general, and I won't go off on a tangent, is to say that while Chaos Turbo is the deck to beat, I feel like very few people are actually like building their decks in such a way to beat it. Mostly people are just playing Chaos Turbo themselves instead of just playing the strategy they want and playing cards that just can beat that deck. Maybe I'll do a more overview video on how to beat that deck, how to play it against it, correctly. Obviously, it's kind of more of a combo, very consistent combo deck than anything else. So once it gets going, it's very difficult to interact with it. But there are certainly better ways to play around their game plan. One thing I do want to say is, people have fallen off of using mind control. Personally, I think 2 or 3 mind control is perfectly fine to use because if you know how to use it correctly, then it's one of the best cards against Chaos Turbo, because it just gets rid of the problem permanently. Sending it to the grave is kind of like all good Chaos Turbo players always have a contingency plan when they're sending their monsters to the grave. Often they'll summon the Chaos Sorcerer before BLS. They're playing around your outs. They know you have them, especially in a format like this where the lists are totally public to the players, which I don't actually like at all. I think that's just while it does add a different type of strategy to the game, it's just not consistent really with how like IRL tournaments really go. And it's just it makes certain decks considerably better than others, and certain decks a lot weaker than others. For example, decks that like may smoke screen into something in particular, right? If it's the opponent's aware that it's there, it's a lot less effective. And you saw that happen a few times in the tournament when someone would side into goats and they knew that they had that package in their side, so they were able to prepare for it. But that's an entirely different video, really. But yeah, so most of the decks here were fairly, like I'd say, like 70% of the decks were probably 90% the same as far as how they were constructed. Variations in their side deck, of course, but even that was fairly consistent amongst the majority of the players. Even players like Wavement, for example, that qualified with Relinquished, didn't opt to play it. And I feel like they probably would have, they did well, obviously, they did well, but I honestly feel like they would have done much better if they had played the deck they had qualified with. I just feel like that would have certainly playing Chaos Turbo is like the Chaos Turbo players. I think that's kind of what they want, almost in a way, because it's a matchup they fully understand, right? They play the deck themselves, so and I'm sure the players that play those decks really love those interactions, and it does take a lot of skill to still win those matches, but I think a large majority of people really would prefer to see more interesting sort of strategies. And I also think that the idea that it's the best deck and there's nothing that can compete to it is only as true as you allow it to be. If you don't try to do new things, if you don't try to be innovative, if you don't believe that certain things can work out, then it's just not going to, right? Chaos Turbo didn't always exist in the way that it did. There was a lot of variations before it got to where it is, obviously. It's just people had enough confidence in the deck to keep pushing it, and now it is a formidable force, without a doubt. So, but yes, just let's go over the decks real fast. Just for time's sake, I'm going to skip over the majority of the Chaos Turbo decks because they are vastly pretty much the same. You can even kind of see from the small previews here. There are a few exceptions, and I might mention those. But Shifty was a second place. Earth beat down strategy, very cool strategy. Like this deck a lot. I think it's very competitive. Obviously, second place is very good. Trap Dust Shoots helped out tremendously, I'm sure, in the Chaos Turbo matchups because they're live often because they have so many cards in their hand. That being said, I personally would have main decked at least 2 Mind Controls instead of the Smashing Grounds. That's just my personal opinion because they have enough to take care of Warrior. Um, and you can take out the Spies with the Goblins, with the Mystic Swordsmen, with the Tribe, with the Exile, with the Ring. You could, and the No Crosshounds, obviously. So I think getting rid of the Smashing Grounds and putting in 2 Mind Control would have made this deck even better in this particular tournament because it just, it doesn't just take flip monsters. People forget that it does do that, but it also banishes, chaos monsters, which is probably even more important because, they can get back whatever resources they want, but Chaos Turbo's main plan objective is to kill you with Chaos Sorcerer or BLS. That's pretty much their game plan. If they don't have those cards, then they cannot win. And that's just it. But very good deck, very good player. Moving on. Good control deck from Sesto. Chaos control, maybe. But with upstarts. 1 Mind Control in the main deck, 3 Royal Decree. I think Royal Decree is good, but you have to draw into it, really, which is probably why they have the upstarts in here. And if you don't draw into it, your whole game plan falls apart. Also, in this particular deck, it's fairly weak against Warrior because it only runs 2 Spy and no Battle Traps in the main deck and no Battle Traps in the side deck besides Mirror Force. So I imagine that was a rough time, but I do like the Soul Release in the side deck. Moving on here. This is just a weird sorting. Not a very weird deck, though. This is a Chaos Turbo with 3 Spirit Reaper, which is interesting. With the lack of Warrior players in the top 32, I think this was a really good call. See, this is pretty much all the same. Here we go. GOAT format, World Championship paid player. This player is the only Reasoning Gate Turbo to really be doing anything right now, and which is probably the only Reasoning Gate player out there that's like on a higher level. But did a really, it's always really fun to watch this deck, in my opinion. And this player is really good with this deck. And yeah, I think this is more or less the same exact deck they qualified for, which is something that I think is also very neat. Let's see. Moxie's played Warriors. I think this is the 3 Trap Dust Shoots is really good. Low monster count, kind of counters Trap Dust Shoot kind of inherently. Once again, I think more Mind Control would have been a better call, in my opinion, than just maybe even less Solemn Judgment and more Mind Control, like 1 less Solemn Judgment and 1 Mind Control instead. I understand why they run 3, but you have the 2 Dust and Radio as well, so I don't necessarily know if 3 is always the answer in Warriors. It is the answer a lot of times, don't get me wrong, and I played 3 Solemn Judgments when I played Warrior too. It's a really good deck. This player did phenomenal, and the Swiss, and then unfortunately didn't do as well on the main bracket. 1 Burn player, Panda Burn, fairly standard Panda Burn deck. Very cool to see a Panda Burn deck though. Let's see here. We'll go over this. This is the first place, Ludovico Rizzo. There isn't really too much to say. Maybe the most exceptional thing is there's 1 Trap Dust Shoot instead of 2 or 3. But outside of that, fairly standard Chaos Turbo. Congratulations to this player. They played very well. This is a Recruiter Chaos deck, which is cool to see. Although they're very light on the Recruiters. I guess Gravekeeper Spy is kind of its own Recruiter, but the traditional sense of Shining Angel, Mystic Tomato. But I saw them play. I think this deck can do really well, given the right, given them using the deck correctly. I think Mind Control helped this player out quite a bit. They made it very far into the bracket. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mind Control served them a lot in that regard. I also like the 1 Metamorphosis. I think that's very cool. Once you get 1 Metamorphosis, I think that's a very cool addition to it. So I don't think that's a bad call at all because they're never going to know when you have the meta. And I might go back and watch more of that replays of that particular player because I like that deck quite a bit. Um, let's see. This is that Zaborg deck that people have been talking about. I think this is a cool take on it, certainly. I like the Chris Perovic version of this, which may have been the catalyst for a lot of these decks. But you can go on formatlibrary.com and look at just look for Chris Perovic's deck. And it was a recent Monarch deck like a couple months ago, and a very cool deck. So if you're interested in playing the Monarch Warrior strategy, you should go check that out. Gia playing a warrior deck with Mystic Swordsman and Magician of Face, so it's kind of like the flip warrior situation. Uh, Interesting card being Seven Tools of the Bandit to just kind of paying a lot of life and time though probably is a bit scary, but hopefully if the warrior strategy is going correctly, you don't have to worry about going to time. Another warrior deck from Dueling High 101. Same thing, just kind of want to overcome your opponent. They have the Zombiras to make sure they're getting blocked by spies, which is extremely important. I think is that Don's Luke is becoming less and less important. It's really nice when it works, but honestly, I feel like it's becoming less and less important. It's just a warrior you can search, but honestly, I rather search Zombira most of the time. Um, this is interesting. One Berserk Gorilla, which is an interesting addition. Don't know how well that worked out or not, but I like Berserk Gorilla as a card, so we're sharing that one. That's pretty much it. All the rest of the decks are very much the same. So overall, I think it was a fun tournament to watch. Hopefully, this next year, leading up to it, people will be more innovative with their decks, and you'll see more interesting decks, maybe some more cold wave decks, more Monarch-based decks, as you're already kind of seeing with the Monarch Warrior hybrid sort of situation. And yeah, it'll be exciting to see what happens in the next Go Format World Championships. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you liked the video. Let us know what you thought of the Go Format World Championships. But if you are going to be critical, try to at least be constructively critical and productive in that sense, please. So be kind to each other, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.